Right guys, this is a 16-mark essay on Romanian orphan studies. It is question 13 in the 2024 paper 1 and it is the last question in the attachment topic. You can see the plan for my essay on the screen now. My outline is going to consist mainly of Rutter's English-Romanian adoptee study. I'm going to talk about the aim, the procedure and the findings, and I'm then going to kind of focus in on delayed intellectual development and disinhibited attachment type. There is a second study that you could talk about if you want to. That was Zena's Bucharest Early Intervention Project, which focused mainly on the impact of early institutionalization on attachment. You don't have to talk about two studies though if you don't want to. You can just talk about one. It all depends on how much detail you manage to get into that first study. Okay, but I would definitely talk about Rutter's study. That's kind of the main study for this topic. My evaluation points, you can see on the right there, I've got 4, although technically it's more like 3.5 because the third evaluation point is a counterpoint to the second, so that one's going to be a little bit shorter than the rest. So let's jump over and have a look at this model answer. If you want to have a go at writing this essay yourself, then pause the video now and have a go at doing that. You should be spending about 20 minutes writing a 16 marker, so I would suggest timing yourself as well because timing is very important in the exam. Okay, here we go. So we'll start with the outline. So as I said, we're going to do the aim first. So can the effects of early institutionalization be reversed by good quality aftercare? That was kind of what Rutter was interested in. And I've then got the procedure of Rutter's study. Obviously, each one of these pieces of information, they all add detail. So if you don't have every single same bit of detail that I've got, it's not necessarily the end of the world because it all kind of adds up at the end. And as long as you have overall good detail throughout, it will be fine. Okay, so then we have the findings. So we've got delayed intellectual development when they first arrived in the UK. Obviously, there are other findings there as well. So there was also evidence of malnourishment and that sort of thing, but I'm not putting that in because I don't need it. And then the kind of the key finding when it came to IQ was that the rates of recovery were dependent on their age of adoption. So you have an IQ of 102 versus an IQ of 86 and 77, depending on when they were adopted. Okay, you then have the signs of disinhibited attachment as well, and that was also more likely to be seen in children who were adopted after the age of 6 months. I've given a couple of lines to Zena, mainly because the question says studies, plural. I probably didn't need to do it, and the mark scheme for this question doesn't say that you have to do it. It just gives Zena as another option. Okay, but I've literally only given those couple of lines, and Zena's study reported higher levels of disinhibited attachment and lower levels of secure attachment in Romanian orphans. But I'm not giving any percentages or any numbers or anything like that. It's just a nod to that particular piece of research. Now we'll scroll down and we'll have a look at the first evaluation point, which is a strength because it has real-world application. So we've increased our understanding of the impact of early institutional care, and that's led to major changes in conditions experienced by children growing up in the care system. Okay, remember this is a real-world application, so if you're not going to tell me how it's had a real-world impact, then you're unlikely to get the marks. So moving on, we have another strength, and that is that Rutter's research, or the Romanian orphan research, had a huge advantage over previously conducted orphan studies, such as that by Goldfarb, and that advantage is the lack of confounding variables, because in previous studies, the orphans that were being investigated had varying levels of trauma because they were generally war orphans, okay? And trauma such as neglect, physical abuse, bereavement, all of that sort of stuff, all act as confounding variables. However, the counterpoint to that, of course, is that Rutter may have introduced new confounding variables because the quality of care in the Romanian orphanages was so poor that might have added a different confounding effect. So at that point, it means that the harmful effects that Rutter saw in his research might be the result of poor institutional care rather than institutional care in general. And then my final point is a social sensitivity point. Okay, so I'm using my issues and debates here a little bit. And this is all about the fact that the results of Rutter's research kind of show a fairly negative impact of institutional care that results in kind of poor developmental outcomes. And the problem is that all that research was published while the children were growing up. So that might have resulted in reduced expectations of parents and children or teachers as well. That could have led to things like low self-esteem or a lack of belief in themselves. That could have led to them being treated differently, or it could have created a self-fulfilling prophecy where they may have just stopped trying in school or at work or whatever because they felt that it was pointless anyway. Okay? And that is my final point. Now, I say this often, I'm just going to say it again. Having 4 evaluation points is quite a lot, or even 3.5 evaluation points is quite a lot. So please don't feel like you have to get 3.5 or 4 evaluation points into an essay. You will still get a great mark if you can only get 3 evaluation points in, and you'll still get a decent mark if you can only get 2 evaluation points in. So just bear that in mind. Okay? Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.